And you are now live.
Thank you, Aisha. Welcome everyone to this evening's FBS Chat. We're really pleased to have Steve with us and Kij, my co-host. Generally, I always start, Steve, with how our guests came across the solution-focused approach and how it made a difference to them.
That's going way back. I was working in Glasgow at the time. This would be about the late 80s anyway. And I was working in a hospital, and I was getting into working in small group semi-interpretive psychoanalysis and was quite enjoying it. But a friend who I trained with back in the early 80s, he was doing a family therapy course down in the north of England. And he came back and he was enthused about this new approach that he'd come across. He was telling me about, this way of working that you didn't get into the problem at all. You didn't do all that analysis stuff about where the problem came from. It was like really off the wall. And you asked about miracles. What would you do if a miracle happened? And you focused on, like, what does the solution look like? And I was sort of... but you've got to realise that all you're really doing is repressing the problem and it's going to surface someplace else. And my mate Graham he says, no, that's a theoretical position and it's an okay theory, but it's not true. Theories aren't true. And this is another theoretical position that says that if you focus on the solution, then you can work towards that, and it's much briefer. And single session therapy is not unknown, which was obviously completely flying in the face of sort of analysis and such like, or so it appeared. So that was the late 80s, and sort of I was sceptical. Kept my eye out, but I left Glasgow, went to Jersey for a while, and then came up to the northeast, up to Aberdeen. And I was fortunate in about 94 or so that I was working as a CPN by this point, community mental health nurse. And we got the opportunity to do a 2-day workshop with an organisation called the Solution Therapy Practice. And a guy called Dave Hawkes, who's now at Anglia Ruskin. And a lovely fella, he came up, one of his colleagues, and he did this 2-day workshop. And at the end of the first day, I walked out, and it was, I think you described this, kid, I get it. Yes, I love it. I've got it. It's mine. That aha moment was a real happening. So I wanted to know, where do I go? Where do I get the diploma, the degree, whatever? And I couldn't find anything. So I had to build up my own training, as it were, over the mid-90s. But basically, if it hadn't been for my mate Graham Buchanan and Dave Hawkes, I would have gone in a completely different direction, probably.
It's interesting because you said earlier that it flew in the face of everything that you've been taught. That something could be brief and solution focused, but it still piqued your interest, I guess. It still wanted you.
Yeah, I mean, I still wanted to do it because it was different, I guess. The idea of therapy 3 times a week forever sort of it struck me as sort of almost retaining the patient. There was this whole power structure, and it helped people deal with their problem, but it didn't seem very effective or efficient. And here's Graham talking about this thing that you can do 1, 2, 3 sessions. I think at that time the average was about 3.5 sessions. And apart from the knowledge thing of I don't think that's going to work because I've been taught, the bit inside me was, can we really help people? And I wasn't even talking about, turning their life around, as we were talking about a couple of minutes ago, the way, it's almost commonplace for solution-focused practitioners after a while to get so used to people turning their lives about. I was just talking about, getting people's diagnosis diminished or, changed or whatever. And if we could do that in just a few sessions, then that was the thing for me. I was up for that. But it took a couple of years to get into it.
And who was your who else was your inspiration as you kind of began that journey in those early days? How did you manage to kind of continue with that aha moment, and what kind of, especially resonated for you?
So after the first workshops with Dave and such like, obviously Steve DeShazer, and at that point I had, in my mind, Steve was away up there and Insu was his wife. It took a lot more experience and nuance to really appreciate what Insu did. But I think, through videos and such like, Harvey Ratner brought Steve up to Glasgow in 96, I think it was, up to the Centre of Religious Life. And that was amazing, to be sitting in the same room. There was about, 24 of us maybe, sitting in a room, and the man who has developed the therapy that you're working in is standing on a stage in front of you, and sometimes answering questions, sometimes not answering questions as the mood took him. But he was there and he was sharing, and this was real. You don't get that with Freud, And so there was that, and who else was an influence? Scott Miller. He came to Glasgow 97, 98, something like that. And just the people that you read in the books that I was, Alistair MacDonald was a sort of real inspiration when Alistair MacDonald had the first website I ever saw. I'd started working at Robert Gordon University, and I got the internet, and we didn't have it at home. It was still new. This would be late 90s. And I went on the internet and I practiced, because do you remember back then you could do whatever you liked, so long as it was legal and above board. But you could play on the internet because you were learning how to use it. And the very first thing I did was I looked up Alistair MacDonald's website, and it came down a bar at a time. It took about 10 minutes to load this website, and then discovered his what do you call it? Not database, information base. The stuff that he had collected even at that point, and so he was a big influence. And I guess the guys at Brief to an extent, Chris Iveson. I remember going down 2009 to the UKASFP conference in Kiel University, I think it was. And I was presenting something at that, just a sort of 15-minute presentation. And I'm looking out at all these people, and their names are on the books behind me. And you're looking at these people and going, oh my God, this is daunting. So, I don't know if anybody particularly stood out the way that, I have to say, looking back, the greatest influence would have been Dave Hawkes. That he taught me how to do solution-focused therapy. That then seeded the questions that I asked later and I wanted to find out about. I can remember standing in the kitchen washing up dishes after evening meal and thinking about clients I'd seen that day at work. And this was in the very early days, and I just had a regular interaction with them, sort of asking questions, chatting. Sometimes I used to think of it as Kit Kat therapy. That you went to somebody's house with a cup of tea and a Kit Kat and hoped it felt better. But in the evening, washing up dishes and thinking, right, so how would I ask those questions? I'd have the standard format for a session, and I would memorise it and just play with it and practice until I felt comfortable enough to introduce it into live sessions and such like.
We've heard a few stories about Steve DeShazer that, even Evan, I remember saying that he was an awkward man, that, like you said, sometimes he would answer a question and sometimes he wouldn't. And because obviously I've not had the privilege of meeting him in person, and you were sat there with a dozen people. What was your main takeaway from that? What was it that kind of thought, wow, I'm on the right path here? What was it about Steve's, the way that he
I can't hear you anymore, Joe.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we can hear you, Steve. No, you're fine now. You've disappeared. Hang on.
Oh, we've lost Steve, everybody. We've lost Steve. So, Kij and Joe, just have a little convo and tell everyone who you are while I sort Steve out.
Oh, okay.
No,
Steve is here. Hold on.
Hang on. Here we go.
Are we working?
Yes.
We're back.
Yes.
You're back.
Yeah, I was just wondering what your takeaway from that was, Steve, because we've we never had that privilege of meeting Steve in person. Only seeing clips of his videos and that.
I think the thing that struck me most was for all that idea of being what was the word Evan used? Cantankerous, did you say?
Awkward. Almost. Awkward. He said he was very.
Yeah. For all that he was awkward, I guess the thing that really struck me was like his compassion, or not compassion, humility. He wasn't bombastic, He had a wealth of knowledge, that was clear, but he also had a sense of humour, and he brought that humour to what he did, which I appreciated, because I've never felt there's anything so terribly serious that there can't be a smidgen of humour in it somewhere. And I remember somebody asked a question, hand up, and Steve's up on the stage with a microphone, and somebody said something along the lines of, Steve, you've obviously worked with all the greats and the goods and all the big names in the industry and such like, and all the big names. So who would you say is like the greatest person you worked with ever? And there's a minefield for you to walk into. So Steve stopped for a second and sort of looked up at the ceiling. Says, I would say probably Count Basie. And I thought, what a brilliant answer. He avoided the whole minefield of who's the best therapist you worked with, and he reminded everybody, there's more to me than just solution therapy. I'm a damn good saxophone player as well, and I have played with some of the greats.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, what an excellent answer, because it came right out of the left field. And that, I think, was what I liked most about him, that you thought you knew where you were going, and then just something would come flying in from the left field, and it would completely change the conversation, the direction it was going in, which I guess is the essence of solution therapy, isn't it? That clients come to see us with an expectation of what's going to happen, And generally, you know, they can hold on to that expectation for 3 or 4 minutes, perhaps. And then it's kind of like, whoa, right, where are we going? What's happening? And that's where the therapy lies. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah. And Steve, was your connection with nursing always there from the start, and how you were kind of able to put it in the kind of, I mean, I know that both our backgrounds of NHS and working in that context. So I've always had a kind of huge interest in all your work, and I think all nurses are wonderful, and the ability for nurses to be able to use this is always fascinates me. Did you see that possibility very early on of how it kind of fitted into kind of the work, you know, your workplace?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that was the attraction, you know, for all these things I was saying earlier. The basis of the attraction was it looked as though it was going to fit directly into what I did as a nurse, and that, I mean, that goes back to you know, the earliest days. I was 17 and a half when I went to do my training, so I've been a nurse all my adult life, and the expectations that I had were very much about working with people, and to an extent, some of what I then experienced was doing things to people, perhaps for very necessary reasons. I was led to believe, and in a lot of ways they were, you know, acutely ill people. You're not going to necessarily kick off with, you know, suppose you went to bed this evening, or what's your best hopes for this chat that we're having, or whatever. You know, sometimes you do have to sedate people, I guess, or it seemed so in those days, but it wasn't comfortable. It didn't feel good. And the therapy, as I say, it was kind of like Kit Kat therapy. You know, you would sit in the wards and have a cigarette. You know, cigarettes were more effective than phenothiazines. You know, sit down, have a smoke with somebody, and have a chat. But you know, where was this therapy? And I mean, one of the things I was very aware of was the hospital where I trained and worked for a decade. R.D. Lang had done part of his training there as well, and he was an influence. I know he was desperately untrendy in the 80s and 90s, so it wasn't a sort of trendiness type thing, but he seemed to epitomise the idea for me of working with another person, not a patient, not a client, not a punter, not any name you want to label them with, but just another person. And some of the things that he had done in the 50s were being repeated. He actually came to Gartnavel in 84 or 85 to do a presentation. Unfortunately, he was blind drunk and could barely put 2 words together. But it was inspirational.
He wasn't smoking as well, Steve, was he?
No, he managed not. I think they told him he wasn't allowed to smoke. They just didn't think to tell me he wasn't allowed to drink. But yeah, I mean, from the very beginning, it struck me that solution-focused therapy is what nursing is about, basically. You know, that I've argued this for many years, that we get hung up on a lot of the medical type things, medical as in pertaining to physicians and surgeons and doctors and such like. And that's because we work in the same building, usually. You know, we work in a hospital or we work in the community, and there is a tradition developed that we work with doctors. But a lot of the medical things that people focus on they're not nursing. You know, it's just nurses can do them. And if that's all we have, then we're simply medical technicians. You know, we don't own it. We can't change it. It's not ours. Solution-focused therapy, as it was when I first engaged with it, that was ours. We could work with it. There was the whole stuff in the late 80s in the States, sort of Denise Webster and Diane Hillier talking about, solution-focused brief therapy fits with the values of nursing, and it fits with the values of feminism in nursing. And there was some really great work done about that. It seemed to me that I don't know enough about other professions. I think you made a very good argument, Kij, for pretty much the same, linking it with speech and language therapy. So I'm not claiming exclusivity for nurses, but I think it defines what nursing is about. It's about interactions with other people, with the participant in that, I guess that the term solution-focused therapy. As a mental health nurse, I wanted to be a therapist. That was why I got in. I remember. I don't want to go off in long tangential stories, but I'm going to. I remember. The reason I got into nursing was, again, my mate Graham. My mate Graham pops up in a lot of things in my life. We've known each other since we were at school. And I wanted to go out with a girl at school, but she was sort of part of a duo, her and her pal. So I asked Graham, would he go on a double date with me and these two girls? And he was like, yeah, sure, yeah. They've been married for about 35 years now. So he's getting me to blame. Oh, thank, that was a lot. So we're going to see our two girlfriends. And he was working as a porter in a hospital in Glasgow. And he said he chucked his job, he was leaving, he was going to get a new job, he was going to become a nurse. And I laughed and said, what, like your mum and your dad and your big brother and your big brother's girlfriend and your whole family? It was a nursing family. And he says, no, not like that. I'm going to be a psyche nurse. So immediately going to the only thing that connects for a 17-year-old boy in central Scotland about psyche nursing. I says, what? You mean Mad Axeman and stuff like that? He goes, no, Mad Axeman, no. Like talking with a bunch of guys with problems and helping them work them out. And I went, oh, like therapy? Aye. Okay. Can I come? Can I be a nurse as well? And the important thing for me about that was he described it as working with a bunch of guys with problems and helping them work them out, not working them out for them. And that was how I saw nursing, was helping people sort out their problems. And it was going against the current, it was sailing into the wind. And suddenly here was a model, if you like. Again, not a trendy word, but I'm not a trendy person. It was trendy when I was trendy. A model that said, yeah, this works. It goes against the flow, but hey, it works. So that was sort of, it absolutely fitted what I wanted to do. Oh, thank you, Ella.
And I'm looking to my right because I've written down David Haynes' question. So David is a nurse in Australia. I don't know if you know him, Steve. He's only 40s. He supports the wrong football team, but we'll let that go for now. But he was, talk, because obviously you're a kind of mental health nurse, but nurses who where sometimes it's just we deliver medication, make sure patients have got the medication at the right time, and how important is it, he said, is the relationship between a nurse and a patient?
That was what I was getting at, that it is paramount. Without the relationship between nurse and patient, you're not a nurse, you're a medical technician. Anybody could do that job. You could train a monkey to do it. I am acknowledging the monkey would need training, but it's not nursing. Nursing is about relationships between people. And then those relationships are used therapeutically. And that can be working with someone with diabetes. It can be working with someone with a leg amputation. It can be working with someone with a long-term chronic condition. It can be working with children. It can be working with their parents. It can be working older adults. It's everything, that without the relationship, you don't have nursing. And also without the relationship, you don't get outcomes, We talk about, people not adhering to the treatment plan and to the treatment regime. You've been prescribed this medication to take it home, and you're not taking it. You're doing wrong. You're badging. You're a rank badging, and you're going to get sick, and it'll serve you absolutely right. And if you don't have, that's because there's no relationship. If you are working with this other person and have a relationship with them and have explained to their satisfaction why this treatment plan is a good idea, then the idea that came up in the last few years of concordance rather than cooperation or compliance, that working together, you only work together when you're both invested. So, to go back to David's question, I think that it's the relationship is everything. It defines nursing. Nursing has its roots, I would argue, in sort of the act of a mother with a child, the nurturing, the feeding, the growth, the care, the love, all that soft stuff that doesn't feature in just giving out tablets or baths or whatever. That's what nursing is. That's what I'm passionate about still.
Yeah.
We've got a question from Yvonne. I'm interested in your thoughts about SF and parents who have postnatal depression.
Yeah. Ooh. I really have to. People ask questions like that a lot, and they're valid questions, but I've got to ask, what's their name? Who is this parent with postnatal depression? Because they're not homogenous. They don't come in six packs. So with all respect to the person asking the question, I don't work with parents with postnatal depression. I might work with Madge or Bob or Mary, and each of those, while sharing a diagnosis, will have a very, very different experience. So I would argue that, solution-focused therapy doesn't work with diagnosis. And it makes for crappy answers to questions like that. Those are the questions people ask. And, I remember we were talking about Steve DeShazer in the 80s. Somebody asked him, does it work with alcoholics? And he said, I don't know. What's his name? Who is he?
Yeah.
And, he was making the point as gently and compassionately as he could, as hopefully I just have, that you don't work with diagnosis and labels in this approach. You work with people. One of the things I found repeatedly when I was working in the community as a community mental health nurse was I would go and see somebody, and I'd have my letter from their GP or whatever, and saying, I said, Dr. Such and Such asked me to come and see you. He says that you've been whatever, or you've got whatever, some diagnosis or other. But I'm more interested in what you could tell me about the last couple of weeks. What's been happening? And generally speaking, that was the last time we referred to that letter and the diagnosis and anything else about it. And the only people it caused problems was the wider team when we had multidisciplinary team meetings, and the consultant would then ask me some questions based on the diagnosis, and I'd sort of go, don't know, it didn't come up. We didn't really talk about that. And then they get better. You know, they get discharged after like 4 sessions or something like that, and their mood would, oops, sorry, that was rather unexpected, wasn't it?
Keeping us on our toes.
Their mood would improve or whatever, and Mike would sort of nod sagely and say, medication must be kicking in. Thank you. Yeah, it's nice to be appreciated. So I do appreciate the person asking the question, but there's no answer to it from a solution-focused perspective.
We have a lovely comment here from Catherine. Remembering that everyone has a name rather than being a bed number or case number, that one of the strengths of nurses, it helps the trust and working together.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've been working on or thinking about off and on since Mark McErgo raised the question over 10 years ago at a conference down in England about his question was, is there a solution-focused paradigm? And it set me off thinking about solution-focused. We talk about paradigm shifts and such like, but I remember, I think it was Guy Shannon was quite vociferous that there was no solution-focused paradigm if you fully understood the terms. Which I didn't at the time, so was somewhat mystified. But looking at this and looking at what I've spoken about as a solution-focused meta-paradigm, I think it's important for nurses that it introduces the idea of the solution-focused practitioner and the participant in that interaction, that it's a participatory, consensual, safe interaction between 2 or more people, and that person has a name and all the stuff that comes up in the non-problem talk. You know, that they are a person who also has this problem, but you know, pretty soon they're just going to be this person because hopefully the problem will cease to have relevance.
Love it.
And Steve, what I really like about your work, because I've read, you know, I've got something here of one of the papers you were talking about training nurses and so on. I really love how often you mention the word trust, which I think just came up just now as well. But if we're talking about participation and working with somebody, trusting that person can respond and give the information so that we have this dialogue and instead of sort of you know, expecting us to kind of be fixers, that facilitation bit. Tell us more, because I think your belief in trusting the clients, the patients, to have capacity, to have resources, I think comes through very strongly in what and it's kind of really important in a hospital setting.
I mean, yeah, I think it was Dave Hawkes said to me that, you know, we assume as professionals, we just naturally seem to assume the patient's lying through their teeth, you know. And if you think about that logically, why would they? They have got the most to gain from this relationship working. So they are telling the truth, and if we work from that assumption, that you're telling the truth, and if it doesn't make sense to me, then I need to do something about understanding why that's the truth and why it makes sense. Or at least if I'm going to challenge it somewhat gently, and not just say, you know, they're lying, so they are, yeah, lying, that'll be it. So trust is, I mean, I've worked with clients in situations, worked with people in situations where, to be honest, I've not had a clue what's going on. You know, usually 9 times out of 10, maybe if things are going well, 9 times out of 10, you've got a feel and empathy, if you like, for what the person's telling you, and you can sort of go, oh yeah, you know, I get that, yeah, wouldn't want it to happen to me, but I do understand, yes. But every now and again, I work with people who I've got absolutely no idea. I go to supervision, and my supervisor says, you know, so what's the problem? And I tell my supervisor what the clients told me the problem is, but I don't understand it. I don't get it. But I trust that by working together in this way, the client will work it out to their own satisfaction. And sometimes it's a bit sort of, scary. You do feel a sort of sense of responsibility, that I'm supposed to have some sort of treatment plan in mind. And well, I do, but it's a standard treatment plan. It's very basic. We will have this conversation and you'll figure out what it is you need to do to feel better. Yeah. And you sort of know that, the NMC are going to hang you out to dry if that's what you're hanging on to as the ship sinks. But, touch wood, trusting the client to find a way forward in a intelligent fashion. I remember seeing Insu confronted with somebody who appeared not to be engaging terribly well while saying they were. And, those responses like, I'm confused. I don't understand. You tell me this, but then you say that happened, and I don't see how those two things can. I don't understand. I mean, I'm sure you do, but can you help me? Can you help me out here? And either the person will then, from that sort of respectful question you've just posed, explain to you. You go, oh right, I see it. Aye, and that happens. So slap the forehead and go, I see what you mean. Yeah, I was thinking something else entirely. Or, they'll sort of smile and go, well, I say I've been doing that, but, well, maybe not, And, again, Insu saw saying, well, that's okay. You've not been doing it. I'm sure you've got good reasons for not doing it. I don't know what they are, and I'm not going to ask you, but I'll leave that to you. Yeah. And just moved on. And leaves the guy, I think it was, sort of sitting there going, why haven't I been doing it? Why am I turning up here to speak to this lady, but I ain't doing the stuff the rest of it? I need to think about that later. And it's just so respectful, and it's not putting anybody down, and it's not giving them a hard time. It's trusting them to figure it out for themselves.
That's really interesting, because obviously, if I'm a patient and I'm dealing with a professional, a nurse is a professional, let's face it, and has all that education and that. It leads on to one of David's other questions, which was, how can we, and not just nurses, therapists, whoever's in the helping profession, perform the expert role but take a non-expert stance? Does that make sense, Steve? What he's asking you there?
Yeah. Yeah. How can we do that? Because they're not linked. The expert role is something that the client gives you, I guess, by coming to see you, by agreeing to work with you in whatever shape or form. So, in a sense, we do fulfill an expert role. It's just not expertise in what it is people imagine we're going to be experts at, in answering all the questions of the world and, telling you how to work your life and such like. We are experts at listening. We're experts at asking questions and not presupposing answers. We're experts at putting up that scaffolding, if you like, to co-construct with somebody else their solution or their positive future scenario. I've argued in the past that the positive future scenario and the solution aren't the same thing. We co-construct this positive future scenario, and that engenders a sense of hope in the client, and through that, the solution actualizes or realizes. They bring that about and they allow it because they're now approaching it with a sense of hope. So those two things aren't connected either. So we do fulfill an expert role, but not as people expect. And if we don't believe that we have expertise at what we're doing, then one of the things as a trainer, I guess, was as an educator, that taking new students at the start of a 6-month program, and you have experienced nurses, experienced social workers, experienced psychologists and such like, and I think on the second day of my course, they got an opportunity to practice. Might have been the third day, I can't remember. And how difficult beginners found it to do this. So thanks for coming, and how can I help? What's been going? You see, it's such. Oh no, I'm not supposed to do that, am I? Right? And I've seen competent practitioners sitting unable to speak. All the things I want to say, I'm not allowed to say. You said, Steve, and I don't know what to say in its place. So those of us who have the experience and are doing this day and daily, we have an abundance of expertise. It's just not expertise in telling people. It's not expertise in finger wagging.
Wow. I think Catherine's question is cool. Ash, have you seen that?
Right.
I'm on mute. Joe, can you read it? Because my eyes have gone funny again.
Oh, can you see it there, Steve?
Yeah, I can see it. Yep. Catherine's asking, can everybody see this?
Yes, everyone can see it, apart from me, because I'm not wearing my glasses, Steve.
Cool. Right, yeah. Very, very much, not knowing, taking that one step down position is so effective. And I mean, I remember describing it to students as, have you ever been stopped by somebody asking for traffic directions? How do I get to such and such? And you say, you go up there to the roundabout and you turn right and it's second and left. Oh, thanks, that's great. So up to the roundabout and turn left, and no. Up to the roundabout and turn right. Up to the roundabout, turn right, and it's third on the right. Right? No. Up to the roundabout, and you keep going for hours if they keep at you. Somebody asks you a question, you are going to answer it. And asking questions, not knowing, not only does it put us in that sort of not knowing position, it encourages people to tell us things, and that's how we find out about them. There's this myth in mental health that if you talk to the patient about their delusions, they'll get worse. And trying to disabuse people of that notion, you need a crowbar to prise them apart, not hitting them with, because that would be unethical. But there's this idea that that would be colluding. Go on, explain. So somebody tells me that the devil is controlling my mind. The devil is making me do things. Right, aye. And probably find that he's also controlling your next door neighbour's choice of music. Do you find that? No? What are you talking about? That's stupid. You can't add to delusions. But if we ask about them, by and large, people tell us about what they're thinking, and delusions is just the extreme. If we ask about people's diet, or their smoking habits, if they've got, COPD or something like that, by taking a not knowing stance and not telling them and wagging that finger, but you see, eating that trifle isn't good for your diabetes, but instead being, okay, so, and is that good for it? Does that help? Well, no, it doesn't really help. Oh, right, okay, so fair dues. So I suppose you've got your reasons for doing it, though, haven't you? Yeah, well, I like it. fair enough. Yeah. That's important, like, yeah. How does that fit in with the problems you're having with your toes? So, and, exploration, asking questions, not knowing. I looked at some of the transcripts of some of the papers that I've written in chapters in the new book and such like, and almost without exception, everything that you say, or everything that I say in therapy is a question. Even if it's a suggestion, so would it help if I took the trifle away? And, then you were debating it. Would that help?
Never.
No, okay,
Never.
right, we'll leave the trifle where it is.
Leave the trifle where it is.
Get your hands off my trifle. You're not getting back. But I find in solution-focused interactions, almost everything is a question.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, for Kathleen's question, I would agree entirely. Yeah.
And it's immensely respectful of the client's view of their problem or how it affects them. Brilliant.
Kidge, go for it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was going to ask, because I haven't seen this book, and I am really interested, and it's got that word interactions in there, and there's all that expertise that I imagine is, well, of course, is going to be in there. What are you most proud about in this book? I'm sure there are many things, but what are you?
Oh, God, here's a question, isn't it? Yeah. I think the book is in sort of two sections. There's sort of the parts of the book, the front and the back, basically, where I speak. Oh, this is my thoughts. Maybe you'll disagree with me. It'll be interesting to hear. But the front and the back chapters, I do the educator thing, and I talk about solution-focused interactions. I give examples and such like. But in the middle, leading into that, I say, so why should you believe me though? Where's this coming from? My belief, and I link it back to my PhD research a few years ago, and it's asking nurses what they experienced, what they got from it. The question was, what's changed since you did solution-focused training? And my supervisor, a lovely guy called Colin McDuff, he said to me, what if nothing's changed? And I said, well, that would be really remarkable, Colin. Nothing's changed. I want to know how they've managed that, because change is happening all the time. I'm not stipulating what the change is, but just what has changed. They might have got a perm. Fine. Let's talk about curly hair. So what am I proudest of? I think, to be honest, I'm proudest of the people who took part in that research, particularly the 3 nurses who took their time to come and talk to me about it time and time again. So that I'm proud of. I'm immensely proud of them and all the other ones who took part in the group narrative and such like. I guess I'm also proud. I don't know if that's the word. Pleased. I'm pleased to get the idea out there that solution-focused interactions isn't just about mental health. It is central to nursing, as I've said, and I'm hoping that student nurses, early career nurses in surgery, in medical care, in community, in midwifery, and in health visiting, can't forget health visitors, that they can read this and think, oh, okay, this is a new, and get that aha moment. I can take this forward, and it's not about mental health, and it's not about therapy. It's about helping people. One of the things we found with nurses was when we spoke to people at training events and such like about therapy, the vast majority of nurses would say, oh, I don't do therapy. No, I'm not a therapist. I'm just a nurse. And paediatric nurses, yes indeed. How could I forget? Sorry, Kat. I got the health visitors. I was really pleased because I always get the health visitors. Paediatric nurses. I used to work next door to a whole bunch of paediatric nurses. Hang me. But the idea that that aha moment that they can take this forward and engage with people. I remember, a good few years ago, we wrote a paper on it, four of us, Dorothy, Adam, and a couple of colleagues, and myself. And it was a student of Dorothy's at RGU, who Dorothy was part of the group, the solution therapy group, and she was teaching her adult nursing students about it. And maybe about 3-4 months later, one of her students emailed her and said, Dorothy, remember that solution focus stuff you were telling us about back in class? Well, I wanted to share with you today something I did. And she had done this wonderful work, taking someone with a life-altering experience and who was, bereft, as you would be, and not being a professional nurse and walking about with her shoulders, but actually sat down and said, so what can we do to make this moment a bit better? Forget about the rest of your life, forget about your kid's wedding and stuff like that. Right now, right here, right now, what would make it better? And that I'm pleased to put it out there. I'll be proud if the nurses pick it up and the other practitioners pick it up and go with it. I'd be proud of that. And I'm also pleased to have finally got my solution-focused meta-paradigm out there in print. That's been a long time coming, so I'm chuffed about that. Yeah.
And that's brilliant because that answers one of David's other questions about what were your best hopes from writing the book. So you've hit two birds with one stone there, Steve. In terms of, I guess in terms of nursing, you may see a patient one day and not the next, and I guess those brief interactions can be really, really important. So for anyone thinking about going into the nursing profession, and what advice would you give them about those short, brief interactions that you may only have for 5 minutes? How important are they?
They are so important because that's all you have, And one of the things that came out when I was doing the research a few years ago, another myth that you can't do solution-focused interactions in an admission ward because you have to be able to see the patient over a period of time. And if you see somebody on Monday and then go off and you don't come back onto the back shift on Thursday and they've been discharged or moved to another ward, well, that's that. And it was one of the three nurses that I focused on in the book, Dawn. And Dawn had been in community where she saw people for a long time and then moved back into the wards. And she said, no, of course you can do it. You can do it anywhere. It's more important in the admission wards because you don't have the luxury of an hour or 50 minutes. You don't have the luxury of 4 or 5 or 6 sessions. You've only got 5 minutes. So you don't do the standard format session and such like, but you do something in 5 minutes that is solution focused, that is forward looking, that's hope building. And over time, you introduce other aspects because you don't know how much time you've got, So you've got 3, 4, 5 minutes, but you might have 5 sets of 5 minutes before the person moves. You might have 20, who knows? So in solution-focused fashion, you go with what you've got. If you've only got 5 minutes, you better make that 5 minutes worthwhile. And what you say in it had better be important.
Love it, yeah.
And the last question from Kidge Burns.
Oh, Gosh.
No pressure.
I was just loving that phrase you gave about it's all about engaging with people, and I need a compliment here. And this thing about it's in the medical setting, it's so important to be able to do something briefly, and I love how you've highlighted all of that. I mean, just kind of looking back on all the time you've done it, I guess I'm interested in people's journey in solution focused practice, that what you've most appreciated about maybe where that's taken you. And I don't know whether it would be in the general field of solution focused practice or kind of, you know, the different emphasis now. I know you're in independent practice. Is that a kind of question that would make sense to you?
Could you run it by me again, just quickly, Kidge?
I think it was about what kind of aspects are so most resonate with you now in terms of kind of that long period of time that you've done it, of kind of that's really made a difference to you and that you especially value at the moment, say.
Just went through my mind there. You know, last question, and he's going to sit and go, "What?" We don't get to the answer. No, I've got it. I think, I mean, some of the things we've spoken about, the thing that resonates most is trust, right? And the idea that people will come back with sometimes the most outlandish things that, you know, in whatever setting, as I'm always a nurse, but in NHS or in academia or in private practice, I'm never going to suggest it, you know. I'm never going to suggest that, you know, you sell your house and move to Australia, because people are just going to look at me bizarrely. But I have had people coming in and saying, "I've just come back to tell you that this will be my last session because I'm selling the house and moving to Australia." And, you know, you sort of go, "Whoa, is that going to help?" You know, yeah, absolutely. I remember a lady telling me that, remember that question you asked me about if a miracle happened? And I've been thinking about it. And it just occurred to me a couple of weeks ago that every time I spoke about my miracle, my husband wasn't in it. He wasn't part of the miracle. And then I realised that he actually is the problem. And we spoke about that, and it didn't go well. And I'm going to Australia. Bonzo. You know,
I love that.
There's no way. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to come in and say, "Listen, you should really just leave your husband and go to Australia." So, you know, the trust, and as my mate Graham has it, get out your own way. You know, that when we look at a situation and we think, "Oh, can I do this? Can I not do it?" And you start sort of standing in the middle between you and the client and trying to second guess what they're going to do. That's problematic. Get out your way. The client will tell you if you've got it wrong, and it's not the end of the world. Your expert status, as we were speaking about earlier, doesn't come crashing down because you say, you know, "Has X got anything to do with this?" And they go, "No, nothing at all. That's a daft question." "Oh, okay, fair enough. I do daft questions as well, you know." You carry on, you know.
I love that. I'm going to use that, Steve. Next time a family looks at me that way, I do ask daft questions now and again. So that would be great. And yeah,
that's one of the things I think is so wonderful about solution-focused practice, is that you go to conferences and such like, and everybody shares stuff. Nobody steals anybody else's technique or question or whatever. We share a bunch of stuff, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I always say I'm an honest thief. Ella, great to see Kidge Burns too. Wonderful last question, Kidge. Thank you all. I really need to start wearing my glasses at this time.
Yeah, you're squinting.
I can't do it. Thank you so much. Any last comments from you guys? Any one of you?
I like the thing, get out of the way. That's what I do. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for being so kind to me this evening.
Yeah. Well, the hour has gone past so quickly, Steve. So thank you for your stories, your insights. it's been a wonderful experience for me. I've never met you before, but I'm glad I did. Thank you for that. Thank you for tonight.
Yeah.
And thank you, Kij, for coming along.
Oh, Kij is just an FBS member of staff.
Oh, it's all these wonderful people you have here, and it was just a joy. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you.
Not at all. Thank you, Kij, and see you in another 8 years or whatever. Hopefully not as long.
Can I ask Steve and Kij to just hang on there, just so we can say goodbye in privately when we're off air, and everybody else. Next week we have next Tuesday, Elliot, Connie, and Linda Metcalf will be joining us on Tuesday the 27th, where Linda's going to reveal all about Elliot when he was studying at university. And on Wednesday the 20th, we have Zainab Zat, who is a fantastic solution-focused brief practitioner or therapist, sorry, Zainab. And so we're looking forward to meeting her then. And then we have loads more coming up. And thank you, everybody. So, guys, just wait there for a minute. The rest of you have a very good evening, morning, afternoon, no matter where you are in the world. Take care.
Thank you.